actually ate about 250 different foods in California, food plants. I'm writing a book right now. The name of the book is called Eating California. And I'm writing it with a group of top chefs. And we're developing recipes with the native edible foods that can be integrated into mainstream diet. And we've narrowed our list of plant foods down to 65 different plant foods that are native to California, that can be integrated and are delicious and would save millions of dollars and millions of gallons of water and less use of chemicals if they were introduced into California. Now, specifically, what are these foods? Well, number one at the top, you probably could guess what it is. What do you think the number one edible food in California is?
Tomatoes?
No, tomatoes aren't native.
Dandelion.
No, dandelions aren't native. It's the acorn. It's the acorn. Acorns from oak trees. We have 1 billion oak trees that produce abundant crops of food that's higher in nutritional value than wheat and corn. It has 9 essential amino acids. They fall on the ground. Every 2 years, an abundant crop is produced, and no one eats them.
Easily.
Okay, I'm going to give you 5 that you can not only eat easily, they are high in antioxidants. Their food value is really better than the foods that we're eating now. Okay? Have I convinced you?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to give you 5.
Okay.
Acorns, elderberry. Elderberry, high in bioflavonoids, a tremendous antioxidant value. Beautiful small tree in your home garden, elderberry. You can eat the flowers. We're having elderflower fritters today. They're a common food in all of Europe. If you go to fine restaurants in New York, you go into an Austrian restaurant, they give you an elderflower cordial with champagne. You can make fritters, you can make wonderful drinks, sorbets, and then as far as the fruit goes, if you don't use the flour, you can make jams and jellies and juices. Any way that you'd use a berry, you can use the elderberry. Okay, that's number 2. Cactus, prickly pear. The Mexican culture uses prickly pear. They use the paddles, they're called nopales, and they use the tunas, the fruit, in their recipes. Most Mexicans in California will have nopales as a staple in their diet. So this is another one that can be integrated, and many different recipes can be created with both of those, the paddles and the fruit. Number 4 would be chia. Chia is it's a salvia, it's a sage, it's an annual flower. It's a beautiful little flower. You put it in your wildflower meadow. It grows in the desert and sandy soils. It needs good drainage, likes lots of sun. And you shake the seeds out, and you can use those. The Indians used to take a handful of seeds, and it would last all day in their activities because the seed has so much protein in it. So the chia seeds, you can grind them, you can make you can add them to salads, you can use them in desserts, you can use them in a power bar. There's a chia seed power bar. One more to round out the top 5. This is so hard. I would probably have to say huckleberries because I think people could relate to huckleberries. Huckleberries grow in the redwood forest, and you know their antioxidant value is very high. You've heard about how beneficial blueberries are. Well, the huckleberry is even more nutritionally beneficial than blueberries. And you can grow huckleberries in your own home garden.
Today we're going to talk about the way that you might preserve some tomatoes if you have more than you know what to do with, or if you just like a more intense flavor of tomato. Instead of buying sun-dried tomatoes at the store, which you're free to do. Thankfully, they're pretty plentiful these days. You can actually make your own, and this is a great thing to do if you are going to be cooking something else in the oven that's going to be on fairly low heat for a while, or if you're just kind of around and you want to put your oven on low heat. You can take any number of tomatoes that you like and slice them. I like to use Roma tomatoes myself because their texture is fairly firm. They're a fairly consistent tomato. It seems like whenever you buy Roma tomatoes, they're always pretty much the same, and that's useful. They have a fairly firm texture, makes them easy to work with. They're also medium-sized, and any time you know that you have to slice something, if it's small, it's a lot more fiddly, and you have to do a lot more cutting to get a whole tray full of tomatoes. Whereas if you have a medium-sized tomato and cutting them about, what's that, between a quarter and a half inch thick, the slices, because they are going to, when they're in the oven, they are going to contract, and if you cut them too thin, they just sort of shrivel up to nothing. And in this case, they will contract, they will dehydrate quite a bit, and you can, with oven-dried tomatoes, you can actually regulate how dry they become. Some people like them to be quite dry and leathery. I actually like to try to get them to the texture of a not very dried apricot, so that they still have a little bit of moisture in them, and the flavor is just tremendous. They have an intensity like a dried apricot, and sweet and yummy. So you slice up however many you have, or as many cookie sheets as you could fit into your oven, and sprinkle a little salt and pepper. They don't need much, again, because they are going to be in the oven for a while, and they are going to intensify in their flavor. You don't need to go too crazy with the salt and pepper, because those flavors will also intensify. So there it is. Tomatoes, salt and pepper, and then basically you just want to put them into an oven that's about 250 degrees. If it's going to be a little bit warmer, you just have to keep a little bit closer track, so that they don't actually burn, because they will if they get the chance. They've got enough sugar in them that they can get much more black and brown than you really want them. So a more gentle temperature is better. So about 250 in your oven. Top or bottom of the oven, it doesn't really matter. You can fill the whole oven up. It's going to be a matter of probably 2 to 3 hours at a minimum before you start to see the effect that you're wanting. So if you're in a hurry, you can start them out at a little bit higher temperature, around 300, 325. You're going to find pretty quickly they're going to start to sort of stew, and that's when you want to turn the temperature down and just, way low, so it hardly seems like anything is happening, and then let them go for about 2 hours or so after that. And just check the first time. Everybody's oven is a little bit different, so just check them periodically, and then when you'll start to see they shrink a bit, they get a little bit drier around the edges, they're going to have more of their moisture in the center, and just try one at a certain point and see if it's the kind of intensity and texture that you like. The longer you leave them in, sort of the drier and more intense they're going to get. Once they're done, you let them cool. Just with a little spatula, lift them off the cookie sheet and put them into a Tupperware container or even a glass bowl, and cover it. You keep them in the refrigerator, and just pull them out. You can cut them up into pieces and put them in with green beans. You can toss them into rice to make it a little bit more interesting. They're great in salads. They're great to snack on, so be careful. You might find yourself getting through quite a supply more quickly than you might think.
Thanks for joining us this week.
See you next time.